Last year I watched one of the most difficult to sit through bad movies of my f***ing life. Divergent. A tediously long, unimaginative slog that was every bit as terrible as anyone could have conceived of or feared for, made only worse by some incredibly poor direction on behalf of Neil Burger. Had it not been for, you know the story. Divergent would have been the worst film I saw all year in 2014. In part due to the fact that before going to view the thing I kept hearing a bunch of critics that I trusted saying things like, "Hey look, the first genuine good one of these, about time too," or "It's surprisingly better than I expected," which came to me as a shock at first but then relieved me a little that even though I'd planned to review the thing anyway, I might be able to at least have a decent time actually watching it. Oh how painfully wrong I was. Look, I'm sorry if there's some big thing about the books that I'm just not getting because the movies seem to be missing that particular element that makes this series worthwhile. I mean, I doubt it, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, I have not read them. But as I understand it, both versions start out with the same Hunger Games, Harry Potter, Twilight, Ender's Game rip-off premise and character types right from the start, so as far as I can see, the material has been uninspired and lacked any significance from day one. The only surprising thing about Divergent wasn't that every plot device, player, or story element was borrowed from other better bits of material, or that its premise was dull as ever and carried even less weight than the Hunger Games world in being a visual metaphor for high school class systems as opposed to the more relevant themes of stuff like rich versus poor, which by the way should not be taken to mean that I'm a fan of the Hunger Games series either, or that the protagonist was dull, or that the romance carried no weight whatsoever. No, it was actually simply that it was unbearably boring. All those previously mentioned qualities that went against the movie didn't help, sure, but with decent pacing, a more emotionally well-rounded tone, and some sense of proactive urgency, it could still at least have been watchable, or hell, I'd even have taken laughably, enjoyably sucky. But no, it had to be another one of those brooding, self-serious non-entities on top of all that boring crap. And it got a sequel? Even after all of that? This is like if Green Lantern, after all the negative backlash, all the critical outrage from fans it received, and the fact that it just didn't work as a movie overall, inexplicably managing to get a sequel and then Warner Brothers pretending like there's a legitimate reason to keep on going with the series besides, well, comic book movies are in at the moment. Because hey, a genre that sells is a genre that sells, right? Anyway, we got a sequel and it's called Insurgent. Fortunately this time I kinda knew what I was getting myself into, so I suppose you could say I went into it with the same kind of determination as I would hurdling. Lol, let's just see if I can get through the whole thing. This one too is bad. It's not as bad as the last one, thank but it's still bad enough to refuse to prove anything significant about this series, bad enough to still be uninvolving, stupid and sleep-inducing as they come, and bad enough to not even be as good as the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, which I also did not like. See, the biggest problem with this series is that it largely bases its hook, let's call it, and the main overarching plot of its sequel around this world that they've established, and it just doesn't work at all. There are only so many times I can point the finger at this being a blatant rip-off of all of these, but that doesn't mean that your plot and dystopian future setting couldn't at least have been thought out well. So the society is divided into factions, as in jobs, based on what your personality traits would make you best at, like farming, science, etc., but divergents are those few that fit all factions, which puts the system in jeopardy. Problem is, implying that everyone but that special someone has only one personality trait wouldn't be an issue if at least one actor's performance reflected this piece of movie lore, but it doesn't. They all act as human as each other, they all seem capable of doing the same thing, and the main character Tris is, for what the qualifications of a Divergent requires, one of the most lifeless in both movies, which is not helped by the fact that her voice breaking in every scene then also makes her the most annoying to listen to. Shouldn't she be one of the most energetic, emotionally well-rounded characters in the story? Because all she seems to do in these is cry, mope, and did I mention cry? And occasionally she'll fight someone with skills she inexplicably acquired between movies even though only like a day is meant to have passed. But of course, like other bad female protagonists from other bad teen novels, she's just another empty vessel for the average teenage girl to project themselves as, so I guess we're just gonna ignore it. Never mind the fact that Insurgent feels like it's gone to extraneous effort to outright break the rule in half by saying it's a biological thing. Now a device can scan you and dictate how much percentage of Divergent you are? As in how much percentage of personality you have? Anyway, this time our story sees the characters right where they left off from the first one, still trying to outrun the law, trying to get along, and Tris in particular trying to get over her mother's, but for some strange reason not her dad's, death, because God forbid we were going to get through another lazily implemented hero's journey character arc without dead parents' grievances. Meanwhile, the evil leader of Erudite, Janine, because that's not a boring villain name, has found a box hidden within Tris's parents' home which apparently comes from the founders of the civilization, and given someone can unlock it successfully after a series of tests for each faction, gee, I wonder who will be able to unlock it. They might be able to discover the biggest secrets behind their society. This leads to a third act which more or less consists of Shailene Woodley jumping around in a green screen dream world as the settings change or disassemble around her, While again it's not all that worth investing in because I can imagine the audience has probably drifted off at this point, it at least lends a better half of the film's finale to some mildly interesting visual imagery and is the big reason this manages to not be as boring as the first. Oh, and Tris gets a tomboy haircut because if we're going to go for it, we might as well go for it, right? Miles Teller is also around because he unfortunately signed up for this franchise before he managed to prove himself a worthy actor, and while his sub-story has his character constantly flip-flopping between the good and bad guys, he really does seem like the only actor who's having fun in the entire picture. This time round I get the impression that Insurgent is trying to tell us more about this universe and its inhabitancy, as every checkpoint the characters reach exhibits a new faction. I still don't quite understand how many there are, or how these two stumps of wood manage to keep walking into these places even though they're supposed to be wanted fugitives, but I can't fault the picture for having the common sense to try and build on its only mildly distinctive aspect as best it can, even if it does make no sense whatsoever. Hey, at least you tried. Unfortunately, that one decent point in the film's favour then gets immediately undermined by the astonishingly stupid end reveal. And while admittedly there's a part of me that doesn't particularly care all that much that this climax kinda cuts the nuts off of this series having any more stories to tell, which it shouldn't since they've already commissioned 2 more sequels, none of it is particularly satisfying because the journey getting there is just so boring. So yeah, better than the first, but as you can clearly tell, not by a lot. Cheers for watching guys, and as always if you like this video, you can subscribe to my channel.